They say 3 is the magic number. What is going on, everyone? Jeremy Hritz here. Courage pays better than fear trading. 3 red days in a row on the SPX. And the bears showing up a little late. They're supposed to be here in early part of September, but better late than never, I guess. And it feels weird, right? We're not used to the selling because things have just been rocketing higher for so long that any bit of weakness that comes into the market, it's like, whoa. And at one point today, the SPX was down about 60 points. And you're thinking, hey man, are we gonna get a 100 burger? And you're hearkening back to Liberation Day, the tariff weakness, and we had all that crazy volatility. And who knows if we're in store for something like that, but we got to see a 3rd red day in a row. And the question right now is, okay, are we gonna get 4 red days in a row? Are we going to get continued weakness? Are we going to get further droppage? Are the bears going to get in a strong position and continue to apply pressure to stocks to the downside? And we don't know, right? We have to trade the charts, but let's just kind of look at the totality of data, of evidence, of the narrative, everything that's going on right now, and try to get an idea of where we potentially could be headed. So tomorrow we are going to have PCE, which is the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation. That's going to drop at 8:30. And so you would have to think a hot number is going to drive down the markets. We got a really strong GDP number today. We got a strong durable goods order, and the jobless claims came in a little better than expected. So the question is did the Fed cut when they shouldn't have? And then the other question that came out of the data that dropped today is, are rate cuts necessary, being that the economy is hot and potentially that's inflationary? And could we see a pause on the projected cuts here coming up in the next few months? And that's why we saw a little bit more weakness. But the other thing that I'll say is, just look at the damn charts. We need some weakness. Things are just too high. And I measured it out on the SPX. We're down a total of 1.89% from the all-time highs, right? Like, come on, we can't be freaking out about that. And we haven't had a 5% pullback. This is insane. We have not had a 5% pullback since April on the broader markets. That's crazy. So that sets the stage of where we are. We do need more selling. We do need a pullback, at least 5%. Can we get 10%? That'd be even better. But we need that so that we can continue to push higher on this bull run. And the risk of just continuing to go straight up is that when we actually do get some weakness that comes into the market, it's just going to drop like crazy. It's just going to be bloop, right? As fast as it pushed up, it could go that fast down. So we need to get some selling. So I'd like to see some continuation tomorrow, regardless of what the data is. But again, let's go back to the narrative and just kind of framing everything. So we have PCE tomorrow, but also there's these other headlines that we need to pay attention to. One being the government shutdown, and that typically puts pressure on stocks to the downside. And there's the butting of heads, some knocking of heads right now between the Democrats and the Republicans. So we could see some pressure there. Geopolitical issues tend to pop up in October if you just look at the past few Octobers. So are we going to have something come out geopolitically, some type of conflict that adds even more pressure? And how these things work, you just go back and look at the dips that we've had. News about China restricting chips coming into their country, something that puts pressure on Nvidia. So you just got to look for those headlines, those storylines, and what will happen if those things come out. They'll get amplified, and then what that will do is create the narrative to just drive things down. So we really just need to pay attention to all those things to see what's going to happen in the broader markets, if we'll get continuation, or we did see the buyers come in today. In fact, if you go look at the chart pattern that's happened on the SPX over the last 2 months, you could see that whenever we drop below the 10, we would get bought up, and then it would just lead to a push higher. And that there's a similar type pattern forming now, but again, you would think just how far we are extended that we need to come down more. So nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow on PCE. I would not be surprised to see these bulls buy it up, push it back up, because that's just what they do. But because the law of averages reverting back to the mean, and just the bears being back in charge again, looking at any chart, you could see that it's needed. So tomorrow's going to be a fun day. Some notes here, just things that happened in the market today. Crypto got absolutely smashed, right? Bitcoin got down to about 108 in the 108,000 range. Ethereum took a dive, XRP. So I did snag a little bit to add to my long-term positions. I actually added some shares too to some of my positions. Not big. I'm not adding huge right now because I think we have more room to the downside, but cheaper prices, added a little bit. And some things that ran contrary to today's weakness. Apple pushing up, just going. I was like, damn, this thing's going to make a new all-time high in spite of the weakness. So kudos to the Apple bulls out there running things up. And what else do we have? So Amazon. So I took a day trade on Amazon today. Thought it was in a good value area for a push up, and it did get a little bit of a move. They resolved a lawsuit. They got to pay out, I believe, like billions of dollars for it. It got a little bit of a pop. I grabbed a little tiny win off of that, moved my stop into the money, was protected. Then it dumped. But I will say this about Amazon: it came down, pushed below its 100 simple day moving average, and that is an attractive spot for a buy and for a bounce. So I am watching Amazon. The 200 is right down there too. So if it can come down a little bit lower, I'll potentially look at some leap options, leap calls, and play it that way, because I like to buy good blue chip stocks off of those longer term moving averages. So I'm watching that. And what else? Roblox showed some strength. I'm still in my Roblox position with my leaps there. Again, I'm giving that one some time. It's still down from where I got in, not down much, but I like the strength that it shows. There's definitely a demand area. If you go check out the chart, you can see where it's bouncing. So was pretty impressed by that. But the other thing that I'll say too, there was individual tickers out there, despite the weakness, that still were pushing higher. So I had a question, are we going to see a reversal or a bounce off of this drop today? And again, it wasn't even really that crazy of a drop. But here's what I'll say. It might not be an everything rally or an everything pushing up type of deal, but you could have some individual stocks like Apple did pushing up despite the weakness. So just kind of pay attention to what is staying green in the market if we are going to show weakness, and that's something you want to pay attention to where you possibly could find a trade. So just keep an eye on that. So just check out individual tickers that are holding up despite this weakness. Just go through your charts and see what was green. Potentially you can find a play there. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this episode here. I'm going to pick up my daughter and put together the September. Now we're coming back with October. The October preview with all the upcoming dates. Check that out. And I make an interesting comparison between Jerome Powell and somebody. I'm not going to spoil it. Go check it out. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I love the selling. It was good. Snagged a little bit. And I would like to see us come a little bit lower. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. So we'll just live the trade another day tomorrow. Shout out to Stephanie on her SMCI trade. Great job. If you're watching, I wanted to give you some props. So kudos to you. And yeah, that's going to be it, guys. And as I always close the show, and this is a shout out to, you guys know I was in education. My former principal that I worked for when I was a teacher, he always used to say, make it a great day. So Randy, that's a shout out to you. You're probably not, you're never watching this thing, but make it a great day. And then my line, honor the moment. See you guys.